It's the most meaningful night in sports, honoring athletes and coaches from around the country for their character and class.
It's not necessarily win or lose, we're coaching the kids to have them grow up and be good citizens and be good people.
Shining a spotlight on incredible displays of integrity and perseverance.
I didn't want to lose because if I lost, I was afraid that that'd be the last time you'd see me wrestle.
Tonight we celebrate those who set an example of sportsmanship in the tradition of Stan the Man Musial, one of baseball's greatest players and ambassadors. These are the 2014 Musial Awards, presented by Maryville University and produced by the St. Louis Sports Commission.
Please welcome our host, Mike Bush.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Peabody Opera House in St. Louis for one of the great nights in sports. An event like no other in the country. In recognizing the year's most inspiring moments of sportsmanship, we celebrate the good in sports and society. We also honor the one and only Stan the Man Musial. The remarkable honorees, that deserves some applause. The remarkable honorees you're about to meet exemplify the character, kindness, integrity, and selflessness Stan embodied. They have lived up to the standard he set, and that's why this evening they're receiving the Musial Award for extraordinary sportsmanship. Our first honoree amazed us with his actions when he lost the championship match at the Minnesota High School Wrestling Tournament. Now, for many athletes, losing at that stage, so close to winning, would be devastating. But rather than wallow in the moment, Malik Stewart went above and beyond what it means to be gracious in defeat.
At St. Michael Albertville High School in Minnesota, students come and go, but one tradition never graduates. The wrestling program is consistently one of the best in the state.
We've won 7 state championships in the last 25 years.
Athletes here not only have to do their homework, but the hard work required to make it on this team. And according to the coaches, no one works harder than Mitchell McKee.
It makes our job easier as a wrestling coach when your best wrestlers are your hardest worker.
McKee is just a junior, but he's already earned a scholarship to the University of Minnesota.
I strive every day to live my life as best as I can and to use every second of the day, to the best of my ability.
There's the fall for Mitchell McKee.
And McKee was at his best last season.
He really was more intense, more focused. He stepped up his training.
By the time he got to the state tournament, it was clear he had a purpose.
The sole thing driving me through the whole tournament was that I wanted to win it for my dad.
51-year-old Steve McKee was diagnosed with an incurable form of cancer.
I didn't want to lose because if I lost, I was afraid that, that'd be the last time you'd see me wrestle.
Wrestlers may be strong, but for the past 18 months, no one has been a better example of strength than Steve McKee.
I knew what he was going through, and because I can see, I witness it every day.
The McKees know better than anyone that wrestling medals aren't made of metal, they're made of sweat. And these belong to someone else. 16-year-old Malik Stewart from Minnesota's Blaine High School also had purpose last season.
Making weigh-ins and wrestling as tough as I could and making sure I was on this mat every day as long as I could, putting in the time and effort.
He's always looking for the best way to do something. He's seeking advice from coaches, from other wrestlers, from alumni that we have come in. I mean, he wants to be elite.
One of 8 children, Malik lost his dad to a heart attack when he was just 7 years old.
It was very hard because they were really close to him. It was really close.
The significant thing about him dying was probably a few months later is when I started wrestling.
With dedication as his filter, he went from raw to refined. And last season, he made it all the way to the state finals. Though he wasn't even ranked in the top 3, he pulled off one upset, then another, setting up a championship match against Mitch McKee. It happened in front of thousands at the XL Energy Center, home of the NHL's Minnesota Wild.
I went out there and I knew that I had to be, very confident, and I knew Malik was a good wrestler.
He's got strength, he's got speed, he's got everything to be a good wrestler.
Getting to the final for both wrestlers was a long road, but as it turned out, for Malik Stewart, the match itself was a little too short.
As soon as that first whistle blew, Mitchell was on a mission.
He goes for a hip toss and then gets that, and then that's when I get to my back. I get off my back and then get to my belly, and he throws an arm bar, and that's when he gets me and the match is over.
It lasted just 1 minute and 22 seconds. For Mitch, with his dad in the stands, it was a dream come true.
He got to witness all of his coaching and all of his hard work and all of his driving me to practice and all of everything he did for me, finally fall into place. It was just one of the best moments of my life.
For Malik, it was disappointment to work so hard and to be so close. No one would have been surprised if he ran out of the arena. And when he took off after the match, that's what people thought he was going to do.
Are his parents over there? Is he leaving?
I was like, oh, I bet he feel probably a little embarrassed losing in front of all these people, and he might be on TV.
But instead, after losing the biggest match of his life, Malik won the hearts of thousands. He didn't run out of the gym. He ran over to hug Mitchell's dad to tell him congratulations.
Knowing that my dad wasn't there to see me, and if he was there to see me to win a state title, he would be proud. So I just felt really good for both of them, and that he could witness his son doing that.
Doctors can't make Steve McKee's cancer disappear, but for one night, 2 wrestlers did. His son won the state title, but he wasn't the only champion in that arena.
It shows just the courage to go to do that even after losing, and how much respect that means for my family and how everybody's seeing that.
That's just incredible to have the wherewithal of the situation and just to be that humble in that moment.
Well, I've never seen anything like it in 26 years of coaching.
Malik Stewart showing us all that you can lose a match and still come out a winner.
I just thought it was the right thing to do.
Please welcome the Minnesota High School State Wrestling Champion in the 120-pound weight class, Mitchell McKee. And accepting the award from Blaine, Minnesota, here's Malik Stewart. You're about to meet Josh Zukowski and Reese Branzell, 2 talented young swimmers from Florida. There is perhaps no finer illustration of sportsmanship than the camaraderie these 2 competitors share. Rivals in the pool, friends forever. That's truly what sportsmanship is all about.
In Florida, the land of sand and sunshine, some ride the waves, and others make their own.
Let's go, Josh!
10-year-old Josh Zukowski is one of the top young swimmers in the country.
I like it because it's a sport that you can swim as a team and it's individual.
When he was just 8, he finaled in 6 out of 7 events at the Junior Olympics.
At that point, he was the fastest 8-year-old in the history of the sport in South Florida.
And no one is more impressed with his talent than the coach of his swim team, the Jupiter Dragons.
He is a talented swimmer. However, it's not just talent. He's a hard worker, very focused swimmer.
Practicing 6 and sometimes 7 days a week, he's as present in the backyard pool as the chlorine.
Because hard work always beats talent any day.
Still as good as Josh is, there is one swimmer he's always looked up to.
And I would be like, wow, I want to be like him when I get older.
Let's go, Reese! Reese Branzell is a year older than Josh. And like Josh, he's been breaking long-standing records.
At 8, he was doing the Junior Olympics, so he's swimming against 10-year-olds.
When Josh isn't in the pool, he likes to be on the side of it, watching Reese.
When my mom said that there was this little kid named Josh Zakowski, he looks up to you like he's your, he looks up to you like you're his hero, almost. And so I'm surprised that anybody would look up to me.
But by the spring of 2013, instead of just looking up to Reese, he was standing next to him on the starting blocks. Thus began a very special rivalry.
They would race against each other, and it was good. Reese would win, Josh would win. It was very competitive.
Their competitive level with the two of them, if they just drove each other.
Then, with the season winding down, Josh showed up for one of the biggest swim meets of the year. But someone was missing. That someone was Reese.
He randomly started complaining one day of his hip hurting, and he started limping.
He had this fever that just would not break.
Reese had been admitted to the hospital, and he'd be there for the better part of the next 5 weeks. The diagnosis? Something called osteomyelitis, an infection of the hip. Doctors tried one antibiotic after another, and nothing seemed to work.
He looked at me and he said, "Dad, am I gonna die?" And you don't expect that coming from a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid. And it like crushed me.
Then something happened to lift his spirits. Though Reese wasn't on the starting block, he was on Josh's mind.
How would you feel if you were in the hospital? Would you feel bad or would you feel good?
So Josh did something few 9-year-olds would ever even think of. He dedicated his next race to Reese and went out and won yet another first-place trophy. Then, a few hours later, Reese got a phone call in his hospital room that someone had dropped off a trophy at his house.
Reese, I am so sorry that you have not been feeling well.
With the trophy was a get well card, signed by Josh. Months later, Reese still has it.
I'd rather get second with you at the meet than win with you absent. I won this trophy for you today. I hope to see you back in the pool. Your friend, Josh.
I, as a grown man on the phone, I was, choked up, tears in my eyes. I was speechless for a little while. It was unbelievable.
Reese has recovered, and the rivalry has resumed.
That was awesome, honey.
But it has far more meaning than it ever had before.
That was great.
The fact that Josh thought of my son before he thought of himself meant a lot.
It served as an example of that swimming is not everything. Life is bigger than swimming.
I probably learn more from Josh every day than I teach him, and I couldn't be more proud.
One young boy showing that kids can be as deceiving as a swimming pool. You never know how deep they really are.
Gives you hope that there is still hope.